think the trend has been correction. And I think correction's been topical in everything that's happened in the market over the past 10 years, from government legislation to all the things that they're trying to put in place to prevent people from buying homes, keeping them empty, not using them as stock, and having this kind of false economy where people just kept paying more and more every time a transaction happened. So that is a correction that's happened, and I'm hopeful that the future, what it holds, is that you reward the people who are actually providing housing. So you find a solution to keep the landlords who are genuine rental investors, and they're not just accidentally landlords because they got married and they don't need their house, or they inherited some property that they're going to eventually sell and buy a holiday home with. But genuine rental investors should get supported, and hopefully the next thing would be that there'll be enough stock available at a kind of normal level where locals can afford to get onto the property ladder, which is something that's been getting further and further out of reach in the recent decades.
Trends and predictions for the London property market. We think that the high costs of borrowing will probably drive the rental market to prevent people from getting mortgages, and the cost of that getting a mortgage is going to be really difficult for a lot of people. So I think that may drive the rental market forward. We also think that there is still this drive to live in these urban villages. So Hampstead, Marylebone, St John's Wood, these have become really popular, but also Belgravia and Mayfair are considered as prime locations, and we think that will continue. We think that price growth may be limited for the next 12 to 24 months in the London market. However, because of the longevity and the appeal of prime and super prime central, and the fact that people will probably see it as an opportunity to buy now when prices are slightly down, we think those markets will be very firm. So we're still very confident about our super prime and prime markets.
Well, I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's either flatlining or going down. It's not going anywhere. It can't. There are way too many economic problems, and there's political problems, and interest rates still to go up. So it's at best it's flatlining, unless you own one of those properties that I just mentioned at the start. Buy the very best you can. If you're lucky enough to own a house backing onto a communal garden in the right position in Notting Hill, you'll do fine. But not many people own those.
So I think a London property trend of the last 10 years has been that prices have gone sideways in prime central London. Elsewhere in the country they've risen, out in the peripheral parts of London they've risen, but prime central London has stayed pretty static price-wise, all sorts of reasons, but my feeling is that static price situation is going to change, and as people come back into London, which they are notably, that those prices will gradually rise again. So I would be an advocate of prime central London as the place to invest anywhere in the UK at the moment.
So in terms of property market trends and predictions, ultimately we're in an uncertain environment. We are seeing a bit of a change in the market. So we do expect to see prices soften a bit, but ultimately I predict that we're not going to see significant change in the market, because over the last 8 or 9 years, there's always been the weight of uncertainty bearing down on us, and we as agents have continued to deliver results for our clients. People have been buying and selling. London still holds a strong draw for domestic and international purchasers. So the biggest prediction for me is that we have to learn from the market, and agents advising our clients are going to have to make sure that we evolve our advice in a changing environment. We have an election coming up next year, and there is a growing sense of uncertainty, but ultimately this is an uncertain world, and when there's uncertainty elsewhere in the world, we see money coming into London. So predictions are that we'll see London continue to perform well, but we must evolve our advice with the changing environment.
Well, the market at the moment is pretty difficult. In some areas, the top end of the market seems to be okay. I read something the other day about some penthouse in Marylebone with 3 or 4 people after it, 30-something million, but that isn't day-to-day life. They're predicted that things will drop, but someone said that it won't be as long as the financial crisis, that the market will pick up after a while, but who knows?
it's a very volatile thing, and it's surprised us before, and I'm sure it'll surprise us again.
Well, transaction levels are going to remain muted. There's a flight to quality, 100%. So if it's best in class and super well done, it's going to achieve a very high premium. Equally, anything that's unmodernized, really significantly unmodernized, obviously so, is going to have to give the market hassle factor value below its unimproved value. And so, yeah, there'll be premiums and there'll be losses depending on where you are within that scale.
So the sales market, so nationally, house prices are up 25% against pre-pandemic levels, whereas in London it's more modest. They're up by about 12% in comparison. I think over the next 5 years we're likely to see London outperform though, as we see a return to city living and demand for city living. So we're forecasting that house prices will rise by about 14% in London when compared to a lower rise nationally of around about 9%. On the rental side of things, you know, we continue to see strong demand across the board. HomeLet have just recently released their June report, which shows a year-on-year increase in rents in London of 12.5%. And London is the one region in the country that's seeing the strongest growth, essentially. Over the next 5 years, we're forecasting that rents will increase in London by about 17.5%, whereas across the UK nationally, we're forecasting that rents will increase by around about 16%.